I'm Rebecca.
I'm Vicki.
This is Aging Answers, a podcast for families sorting out senior services.
If you're helping a parent or planning for yourself, we make the maze simple.
We cover care at home, assisted living, memory care, transportation, safety, and money questions.
We also explain benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, VA, and how they actually work in real life.
Each episode, you'll get a quick map of your options and simple next steps. No jargon.
No guilt.
Just clear answers so you can move forward.
Welcome back to Aging Answers for families sorting out senior services. If you're helping a parent or planning for yourself, we make the maze simple.
Yeah, I love that. Today we have a guest, Anthony Crossley, who is from Amada Home Care. So similar to Dottie that was on, but she has the registry. You are a traditional home care where you can go in. So I want you to talk about that. But also, Anthony has helped me out of a lot of fires. I use him a lot. He's got a really, really big brain. And in senior living, that is always necessary. So I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity. So we are what would be called traditional home care. We provide CNAs, PCAs, and caregivers into the home. We are fully licensed, bonded, and insured, and all of these elements are audited by the state. Mm-hmm. So that's, I guess, what makes us a little bit different. They come in and they check that everything we say we do. In other words, we only have W-2 employees, which means all the risk goes onto us as a company and not onto the client. They are covered for workers' comp insurance, which can come back and bite you. They are covered for liability and a number of other things. So we can cover pretty much between myself and some of my other Amada partners. We can cover pretty much most of the North Georgia area, going all the way down to the bottom of Gwinnett County.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And one thing I love about your company specifically, and Anthony specifically, is that you do partner with the VA and you also partner with long-term care.
So talking about that is very much part of Amada model. Amada model is to be a resource rather than just provide caregivers. So when we are working with families, we are really looking at how can they pay for this home care, because, it isn't cheap. We have to be absolutely frank about it and say it is a big investment. And it's a reason that a lot of people have taken long-term care insurance, because it is a cost. So whenever I'm working with a family, I'm looking at every possible resource that they can use to pay for home care. The two most common are long-term care insurance. Many people, as they age now, did buy policies back in the 2000s and even pre-2000, and they've got really good policies. And people really need to look through their dusty filing cabinets and see if they've got something there and when they need to use them, because I see far too many people not utilizing their policies.
What are some of the biggest companies that provided LTC policies?
So I would be looking for documents from Genworth, John Hancock, Lincoln Life. Those would be kind of the big ones. We are finding some state life policies as well, and Bankers. Bankers is another one, and Bankers, in fact, are still selling policies. They've just been changed a little bit, but they are available, whereas many of these other companies, such as Genworth, have stopped actually selling policies because of the changes in the environment.
Yeah, and what type of jobs would have people had to have had that was common for LTC policies to be offered?
Anything, and in fact, what I would say is if you'd bought those policies yourself, there's a much greater chance that they are good policies. The policies that were given to you for a cheap price by your employer are typically bare bones skeleton policies. And, I would certainly, one of the things we do is we actually sit with a client and go through their policies. We do a free review where we go through every element of the policy so that you understand what it's going to pay for before you get into a crisis.
Yes.
So
which you've helped me do for multiple families, multiple times.
yeah, exactly. So I do that. And that's one of the things when you do have a company-owned policy, many people are under the impression that, for example, it pays for an assisted living when it is a nursing home policy only. This is typical again back to maybe 1995 and 2000. They pay for nursing homes. Some of them don't pay for home care. Some of them don't pay for assisted living. So there are a lot of limitations on some of those corporate policies, to call them. Whereas a lot of the people who've bought policies have bought them on the basis of what they wanted or what they believed they wanted out of life. So, in other words, they bought them because they said they don't want to go in a facility, and they've kind of leaned towards home care. Other people have bought these policies because they did see a need for them to go into an assisted living at some point. They're social people. They love the environment, and that's what they want.
Yeah.
So, but we can help them change that as well. There are little tips and tricks that if they are maybe bound into one, we can make an alternative plan of care, and we can go to the insurance company and say, hey, this is an alternative to what you're offering. It's cost effective and it's in the best interest of the patient. And a lot of time I work with partners on that one to work with lawyers, and we put together an argument and we send it off, and we've been fairly successful in achieving that.
I love that because I think, again, it goes back to like, not every senior's cookie cutter. We want them to have what they want. That's our goal as resources, is to problem solve. And so I love that you go to the mattresses for them.
And they bought these 25 years ago. What you thought you needed 25 years ago changes a lot.
Yes, 100%. And you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
So when you start looking into senior living, you don't know what that looks like. And then another thing that you do is work with the VA. And so how does that work, or what do you do?
So with the VA, I think, again, VA even more so than long-term care policies. People know they bought a long-term care policy, maybe they don't understand it. But VA, on the other hand, have a lot of benefits, but the information about those benefits is not readily available. It is really hidden quite deeply from the veterans. And once they start looking on the VA website or elsewhere or speaking to people, they see that as a huge problem because they don't know what's available. And the first thing we do is we do a screening. So we look at the veteran. We find out when he served, where he served, in what role he served. We take that down to his current health conditions. What health conditions does he have? Do any of these health conditions fit with a disability profile that the VA has? And then we go another step. We look at his finances and we see if there are any pensions available for low-income people. And then we also look and see if they could qualify for VA healthcare, because VA healthcare have some very good resources for aging people as well, which are free. And many people don't realize they can get a home care benefit paid for by the VA under certain circumstances, depending on what priority group they are assessed as. So again, very complicated, but I do a very detailed screening and then walk them through each of those paths. So what I always say is the VA is broken up into two different groups. The one is the Veterans Benefits Administration, and then there's Veterans Healthcare, and the two of them don't really talk to each other. And a lot of people have never bothered to go and approach healthcare because they say, well, we've got insurance, we've got Medicare, I want to keep my doctor. I've heard bad things about the VA, but you can keep all of that. If you register with a VA healthcare, you will get additional benefits, things like home care paid for.
Wow. Yeah, which is amazing.
And that can be anything from 6 hours a week, 16 hours a week, up to 40 hours a week, depending on your status. The other thing that's really good is if you do have an insurance, a Medicare insurance, maybe an Advantage plan or something like that, that doesn't pay for very expensive new generation medicines. They will pay for those medicines and will cost you $15. And then
That's awesome.
And then the third thing that I always say to the folks about the VA is it'll also pay for equipment. So stair lifts, I've had them pay for. Ramps, I've had them pay for.
Oh.
Walking equipment, those electrified little
The scooters?
Yeah, scooters.
I know we've had some scooters in our community that came from the VA.
So they do all of that.
And they're nice.
And they're very nice. And I know they provide some of the very best stuff.
They do,
And they also do hearing aids. So if you don't have a policy that covers hearing aids, you can go to the VA and they will give you the most expensive hearing aids necessary. So depending on your hearing need, you will get your hearing and vision through them rather than paying a company's insurance policies for that and then still getting the very least that
that's a massive savings just in that alone. Like, why wouldn't you just if you were a veteran, just get screened, right? Like, just get screened. Just see.
Yeah. Other one is disability. I think a lot of people haven't thought about disability because they assume it's because they got wounded or because something fell on them and they injured themselves. But post 2020, there was the PACT Act, which was promulgated. And what the PACT Act now does, it is saying if you were exposed to certain chemicals in these particular locations,
like Agent Orange,
burn pits, asbestos, all of those type of things, they already have a list of diseases which they will accept automatically. It's considered to be pre-existing. So, in other words, if you've got the condition and you've got the disease, you will be evaluated for disability. So, to give you an idea, some of the things that people don't realize about Agent Orange would be to say diabetes type 2 is linked to Agent Orange, no questions asked. Hypertension linked to diabetes, no questions asked. Parkinson's disease linked to Agent Orange, no questions asked. So, there are conditions that you always think of, okay, it's all these cancers and blood cancers, and people think of Agent Orange as always been that, but it does cause a lot of other things. Heart disease, coronary artery disease also is linked.
Now, I know that for some of the VA benefits, you have to get the discharge papers. You have to have the discharge papers. And
very important.
I know sometimes that's hard to do because the VA, after COVID, everything was slowed down. And is it still taking forever to get the discharge papers?
It is. It is taking a long time to get those discharge papers. The DD-214s, which are the discharge papers, you can actually get your discharge papers from a company that'll go and get them for you.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
They take about 2 to 3 days, and it costs something around $100, can be up to $150 if you want to get your full military file. And they will get you everything, every document, every doctor's visit, every evaluation as well.
Genius.
Yeah. So, as I said, it costs somewhere between $100 and $150. The website I always use for that is
write this down.
mydd214.com, I think it is. Yeah,
that is very good information.
And they also help because one of the things that happened is there's a group of people, World War II going into Korea, where those records were destroyed during a fire in the 70s, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
But they can help piece those records together and at least give you a certificate which shows when you went in and when you came out.
That's excellent.
And that's really all I need or who anybody needs in order to do it is just to know, did you serve in any of the periods when you could have been exposed, or some of these periods give you an option for a pension? Like there's a thing called aid and attendance. You need to have served at least one day during a time of war. You don't have to have been in the war itself. You could have served stateside, but you still qualify. And that's why the DD-214s are so important, because it tells you when you served, where you served, did you do foreign service, and you generally have to submit those DD-214s with any application that you do.
Yeah. And so about the aid and attendance, so that's like a hidden gem that a lot of people don't even know that they potentially could get.
Yeah.
So lots of questions about that. What is the threshold? Like, what's the most money they can have in any account I know that there's a look back. Like, I know enough to be dangerous, but not smart enough to actually help people.
So there are a couple of requirements for it, and the financial requirement for aid and attendance is probably the one that's most tricky, because there is no specific limit. And that's what makes it so confusing. There is an asset limit, and that one's easy to understand. They have an asset limit. I think at the moment it's $159,000. That is your cash assets, your assets in investments, 401ks, that type of thing. Does not include your house, as long as it's not on more than 2 acres. But even then, there's a solution. All that they do is they extract the house from the number of acres that you have, and then they value that piece of land that is above 2 acres. And sometimes that piece of land is worth very little. Sometimes I found it worth millions. So I've had both people where we've worked with this, and generally I will refer them to a lawyer at that point in order to make sure that they are able to value that correctly, and make sure that they can qualify.
Yeah.
So for the 159 though is typically just the cash assets.
And what's the look back? Is it 3 years?
Look back is 3 years, and the look back is more important for you selling a house and giving money to your children, for example. So they're going to ask you, did you give any assets away in the last period? And again, my advice is always, if you're going to apply for the VA for anything, speak to somebody who knows what they're talking about, and definitely go and speak to a lawyer at that point, because they can work around some of these things using trusts and other mechanisms to do that. But whatever you do, don't sell your house if you're because that immediately gives you cash.
Right.
You turn a free asset into cash, and that is immediately disqualifying.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
But in terms of income, that's the more tricky one, because typically you need your care costs, because you do have a need for a care. That is one of the requirements, and you do need to prove the need for care. So typically care costs need to be around about the same as your income. Which sounds crazy, but when you think about an assisted living, it's not crazy at all, because typically, and if you're looking at an assisted living, let's say you earn $4,000 in Social Security and a little bit of a pension, assisted living is $5,000. That is immediately a qualifying number, and you will now earn the full benefits. So for a married veteran, that's around $2,750. So all of a sudden,
is that with a spouse?
That's with a spouse.
So 20, how much?
Not each, $2,750
for 2 people.
Yeah.
And what is it for a man?
I think,
or anyone that served.
So a single man who served, I think it's $2,400. And then there is and the benefit is, this is one of the few benefits which are available for a surviving spouse. Surviving spouse can get $1,350, and that helps a lot as well.
That's a lot.
Sometimes it's just that extra $500 or $1,000 they need to be able to live in an assisted living where they don't have any other costs. I find this difficult to work when somebody is at home, because what are they going to live on?
Right.
They need home care expenses of $5,000. They earn $4,000. They might get $2,000, but it all kind of balances out, and it makes it difficult for them to live. But assisted living is dead easy.
Yeah.
They have upkeep on the house.
Exactly.
And utilities.
Yep.
Taxes, all of that.
All of that. And that makes it easy. So, I typically advise the aid and attendance a lot for people in assisted or who are looking at assisted living.
Yeah, you have helped me with so many families who either A, wanted to stay in their home, did not want to move into senior living, so we came up with that solution, and you helped them get the aid and attendance, or moved into independent living, didn't know they could have aid come in the house that was paid for by the veterans, and then they had that aid coming into independent living, so they didn't have to move into assisted.
That's right.
There are so many problems that you have solved. And then also, of course, we have some folks that live in assisted living and they don't want to move to memory care, but they need that extra bump of care, like the extra oversight.
That's right.
And so we have a couple of folks that are getting that, and that's I believe, through the VA. And so
Yep.
there's just a lot of options that are out there that people don't realize because it is, it's the government,
People at home who need care, I try to move them towards veterans healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And there, whereas people in assisted living, I typically will move them towards aid and attendance.
Yeah.
You can have both. No, you can't have both. You can't have disability and aid and attendance.
Okay.
But you do apply for both
and
because they're going to give you the highest.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to ask you. So you can pick.
They'll give you the highest.
I love that. Yeah, smart. And I also feel like veterans, you deserve it. Like my dad's a veteran, but he didn't serve during wartime. So he was in for 8 years. He's not going to get this benefit. But anyone that, I have so many members of my family that could have gotten it and we just didn't plan accordingly quick enough.
That's right.
So, but now that I'm in senior living, I meet smart people like you that fill me in.
You realize the importance, yeah.
Yeah, it's like insider trading, but not.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit more about like home care specifically, some trends that you're seeing, things to be on the lookout for, maybe to start thinking about bringing in home care.
Yeah, so one of the, couple of the things, people generally full risk is one of the big ones to look for. That's when somebody is probably needing a little bit of extra help in the home. Early stages of dementia, Alzheimer's are a good time to bring somebody in to make sure that, the folks don't burn the house down and don't get lost and don't go out without assistance. So we do everything from companionship, which is really just a basic service. And then we move to what we call personal care. That's bathing, dressing, showering, assisting with toileting, assisting with continence products, and then moving into the allied tasks associated with that, which could be taking the dirty laundry, laundering everything every day if there's something going on. And making sure they make the bed again, because that's another high-risk activity for many seniors is to make a bed. The beds are low, they're wide, they don't do that.
That's why I don't
make
mine.
And then after helping somebody with a shower, make sure the shower is clean, the floor is dry, and then we can make meals. We can follow meal plans. We can follow meal plans specifically for certain diets. Yeah. I think that's the other thing that makes us a little bit different from a registry is that we have a care plan. And that care plan is done by my RN in conjunction with the family, who may be somebody who's a medical expert, but our RN will define the plan of care, and then our caregivers have to work from the plan of care. And that includes anything from, as I said, specialized diets, transport. We will go out with folks sometimes. A lot of people are finding that they are homebound. And even though they have somebody like us come in, they just want to get out to Walmart and walk around. They want to go grab a cup of coffee.
They want to feel normal.
They want to feel normal, and this is where the caregiver really helps. And we do a lot of funny little things to help them. For example, if they're very vain, and somebody said it to me yesterday, a lot of the seniors are just struggling with the vanity of needing assistance, and I think we need to recognize their dignity and make sure that we can manage that dignity in a professional way. So, for example, if they have some issues with a caregiver coming in, we'll often tell our caregivers not to dress in uniform. So we typically have a uniform, it's khaki pants and a nice T-shirt with our badging and everything on it, or maybe scrubs if we're dealing with a really difficult case. In that case, we'll tell them to dress normally so that the person does not believe that they are a caregiver.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, just honoring their personhood. So like, if they do wear lipstick every day and they can't put it on anymore, your caregivers will probably help with that. And the little touches that y'all do, that does make a difference because it's keeping them feeling like themselves just a little bit longer, and it's honoring who they are. So I think that's really important. Yeah. What are some like if a family comes to visit their parent and they're like, oh gosh, what are some things that you see? I'm sure it's what we see in senior living. Like dirty clothes that you're wearing.
I think it's definitely dirty clothes, smells, especially around the toilet. Maybe some continence issues. As I said, you'll find some urine smells. Maybe look in the fridge, look in the deep freeze. Look for expired products. Look for look for to see if there are any products, because sometimes the fridges are empty.
Right.
Or sometimes they're expired or they're moldy. See if there's any changes in their weight. Again, fall risks are often the ones that kind of are the ones that show. A lot of people at this time of the year, this is a very good question, because people get together at this time of the year. So we have a rush of questions straight after Thanksgiving and straight after Christmas.
Yeah.
And we'll get inundated to say, hey, we came down, we saw mom, we saw dad, and we're concerned about something.
Yeah.
What I always say to them is, why don't you just meet with my nurse? My nurse can do an assessment on your parents. We can do a dementia assessment. We can do a physical assessment, and we can provide some advice.
Yeah.
In order to see if that we can help. And then if the nurse comes back, I'm happy to come out and then start talking about policies and VA and all of the things that can pay for that.
Yeah, kind of offset the care need. Yeah, I love that. And what
and then also if they're appropriate depending on the needs, we refer out to assisted living. Because the home care can become expensive if you're going over 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 30 days a month. At that point, somebody might say, well, I've got lots of money. I'm happy to stay at home and I want to stay at home at all costs. Or, oh my God, where do we go from here? In which case we say, assisted living is your best bet. This is where we need to go. And then we direct them. I direct them typically, if it's in this area, to you guys. Alternatively, we do work with some very good placement people, and we get in touch with them and they take over the case from us, and we keep involved with that.
Which I love. So there are, just to explain really quickly, there are people whose whole position is to help place seniors into the best care facility. And it could be a personal care home, it could be Medicaid related, or it could be for like a manner like assisted living memory care. And they kind of know all the options. So that's what he's referring to. But they also can refer to home healths and home cares and physical therapy, like benchmarks and things like that.
So we do a lot of that. And I think, again, Amada, I have a very strong focus on nursing, even though we're non-medical. By doing certain non-medical tasks, people get better from their physical ailments.
100%.
So by making sure that they get in their exercise, making sure that they don't fall, making sure that they take in sufficient water, or maybe are limiting their water consumption if they are filling up with water. And that's where my nurses, I have 3 nurses, and that's where they really play a big role in that plan.
Yeah, I love that too, because it does let them stay home longer because they can thrive and have the support that they need with the nurses in tow. So quick question to kind of circle back. What kind of pricing? So we're in like the Atlanta market. We're in North Georgia in Dawsonville, and your office is in Beaufort. So what kind of like your pricing, but also just in general, what kind of pricing are you seeing out there in the market, like low to high?
So I would say it starts at around $28 an hour and runs through to close on $40 an hour.
And that's for like 40 is like skilled?
It's more skilled, but it's people who require Hoyer lift, extra training for the caregivers. And some companies do charge that because they can. We typically are.
Well, you're taking a risk.
We're in the middle. We're in the middle. Often the companies on the low end, they're cutting corners. They're not doing the background checks and they're not doing the other things. But we try to stay in the middle of that range. And everybody manages their costs differently. The way we manage our costs typically is by the duration. So if we have a short duration, it's more expensive per hour. If we have a long duration shift, we pay less. Because again, caregivers like to go to one place and get their full salary from a single shift. To get them to go out for 4 hours requires a little bit of extra for them. And then what we sometimes will do is we will sometimes add $1 or $2 for level of care. Now, as I said, that doesn't happen a lot, but it happens when we have to have specialized skills for a particular senior.
And do you do 24/7 care?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. So, and I think the one thing with 24/7 care, I think people need to realize is you are going to have quite a number of caregivers.
How many?
Typically
would you
around
say?
six. Typically around 6 people on rotation, because each of those caregivers cannot work more than 40 hours a week.
Right.
And as a result of that, you're going to end up with around 5.6 caregivers is the actual number for a 24-hour patient. And we do try our best, especially for longer shifts, that you get to know your caregiver and your caregiver becomes very much part of the family. Our caregivers prefer that. So we do look for that match where possible. But the funniest thing we always find is that sometimes the strangest people get on.
Oh, yeah.
People you never expect to get on. You send this most perfect caregiver, ticks all the boxes, and the senior just says, don't like them.
I have found that so shocking, because you'll meet someone and their background is, oh, they match, they were school teachers and now they're there, like whatever it is, and you think they're going to be so great. And then the senior's like, or the mature adult, they didn't really give me like the warm and fuzzy. We're like, well, we're not looking for warm and fuzzy. We're looking for somebody that can help you. Like sometimes.
Or the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah, or the other way around. So it's just really funny. And also some people prefer men caregivers. Some people prefer, they don't like the hours that they come. They want to split the time, and that's not available. So, it's all a matchmaking situation. Then sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah. So, splitting the hours, I always get that, well, we're doing 8 hours a day. No, you're doing 4 hours and 4 hours with a split of 4 hours in the middle. My caregiver still has to drive twice now, so I need to pay them more in order to get to and from the shift. So it's the same cost as 1 4-hour shift. It's the equivalent.
Yeah, it's a lot. And you do go into other communities. So one thing that Anthony has done here at Manor Lake is he will kind of help divide time. So if there's enough people that live at Manor Lake that need assistance, and maybe one needs 1 hour, one needs another hour, one needs 30 minutes, they can kind of break up that timing. And I know that you do that at some other communities. I know it's really helped us. We're building another senior option, Manor Lake, or our owner is. And so you're going to step in and help with them do something similar. And so I think that that's been a great help with all of our seniors.
That works really well with independent living. So people are not ready for assisted living. So if there's an independent living associated with an assisted living like Manor Lakes, Dawsonville here, people can stay in their independent cottages for longer. So we can do as little as 15 minutes in as long as we have a number of clients in the same neighborhood or in the same independent living. 15 minutes is, for example, a med remind and a health check. So we could come in, remind somebody about their medication, maybe take a blood pressure. Then we go 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on the assessment of the patient. And it doesn't even have to be every day. So that's something we do at a number of independent livings. And we're looking forward to working with some of the newer places that are great.
Yeah, I love it. So if you or anyone you know already lives in senior living and they don't have something like that going on, mention it, because as a marketer, that's what I did at the independent living that I did work at, and then coming into senior living here, that was something that we worked out at a different location, and it was beautiful. I love helping them stay in their homes longer and advocating for them. Also, Anthony just knows a lot and can help with a lot. And so I know for our residents here to get the VA help, to read the long-term care policy, because they make it hard. They make it hard. They want to make it hard so you don't use it. So to have someone with a big brain like you is so great.
And, I mean, they make it hard. But we can actually make it simple. And that's one of the big things. So, I think one thing I would like to talk about a little bit on long-term care policies is, what are the things that long-term care policies look at?
Yeah.
So they look typically at between 5 and 6 ADLs, which are activities of daily living. And these are bathing, dressing, continence, transferring,
is eating in there?
toileting,
Oh,
and eating.
Oh, and
toileting
eating.
and
Okay.
eating. So, and then the insurance companies, depending on who wrote the policy and what they're paying for the policy, it can either be hands-on or standby. So standby means that the person can do it independently, but there has to be somebody within arm's length when they're doing that activity. Hands-on means that they have to be hands-on assisted by the caregiver. Now, some of these activities are easier to qualify for than others. So the easier ones are, for example, dressing. They only need to have difficulty with one item of clothing. So maybe they can't manage buttons on a particular shirt. Maybe they can't manage shoes because they fall risk.
Socks are hard.
Socks are hard. Shoes are hard. For the ladies, bras are hard. That's another one we always forget about in the older person. And as long as they have one item of clothing, they'll qualify.
Yeah.
Bathing is usually another one which people are really scared. They become a full risk. And at that point, you need somebody to just be there in the shower area and assist them, especially drying. I've recently been a little ill and was in hospital for a little while. And I found all of a sudden when I got out, drying was really difficult for me. And I'm really
because you're so tall.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then the one that I've never ever qualified anybody on is eating, because and people get confused. This is not about meal preparation. This is not about preparing a special diet. The only way you'll get qualified for eating is they must bring the food to the mouth. But the caregiver has to bring the food to the mouth. So it's typically a paraplegic patient or something like that that'll qualify for eating. But a lot of the others are reasonably easy. Like toileting is another big one. It's always an issue. Continence, many of them are managing continence issues.
Is driving anywhere on that?
And they don't pay for it either. Let me not say that. Most companies do not pay for driving.
I'm just curious if it's like a qualifier, because I would think if I can't get to my appointment that would help me, but probably I guess not.
It's not. It really isn't, and they don't. In fact, they can be disqualified because lately they've been asking questions about the person driving, and I've had some people disqualified because they're driving.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
So be careful.
Yeah.
Some people are disqualified. And then we have to justify why we believe. Talking about dementia, that's another interesting one for long-term care policies. So long-term care policies, if you are trying to get approved for dementia or cognitive issues and Alzheimer's, their requirement is for 24-hour care, which is not us as a company providing 24-hour care, but it does mean that there has to be a wife or a family member available 24 hours. If they are leaving that person for any length of time, typically they could be denied, and that is in most of the new policies. You do need to have somebody there. And I always say to folks about that, dementia, Alzheimer's, when do you think you're going to qualify? I think you're going to qualify when the person cannot live independently anymore. So if you as a spouse were not here, if you as a family member were not here, would they be able to cope? That's always the question I ask them. And I think that is really...
Yeah, that's very telling.
It's very telling.
Yeah.
It's very telling.
Yeah, definitely. Do you partner with... So there's a new company in town that can do like concierge at home visits and can do telehealth and all that kind of stuff. Are you partnering with anything like that? Or have you looked into that at all?
I mean, we can build that in as part of our care plan. Absolutely, we do a lot of that.
Because if they can't leave the house.
I do regard us as being a concierge type company because of the fact that we do have the skills available, and we do a lot of that for some of our clients where we are taking them to doctor's appointments. We are taking notes and sharing that with the family in order because a lot of the times the senior is not able to remember or understand what the doctor is saying. So that is definitely a service. We help with telehealth visits because of technology. The technology is difficult.
Yeah.
And we help with that. We partner with a lot of other companies. So we partner with home health companies, hospice companies, and we bring in the people who we've vetted.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. There are tons of hospice companies as well as home health companies. We typically have 3 or 4 maybe that we would work with and feel comfortable referring to.
Because you want the best.
Yeah, and that's the way we work.
Well, and you're a great
and
advocate.
We resource based. We'll find whatever is important. I think last week we had to help a family. In fact, it's a family in this neighborhood in Manor Lakes. How do they get their parents evaluated for their driving? So, in other words, you don't want to just take dad's car keys away and say, "I just don't think you could drive anymore." That's often the approach. But a better approach would be, "Hey, let's work with this company and let them evaluate your driving. And then if they say you're fine, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if they say you're not, you're not." And we take away the emotional element and allow them to work with a company that is specific to that. So we just referred a company that does that to a family.
Yeah.
So do you have somebody that actually gets in the car with them to evaluate them?
Yes. Not me personally, but a partner.
I love that.
but
Like a
partner.
company that you partner.
That's a scary job.
But a partner. And I don't think I'd like to do it either.
But I do think that it's necessary because I think the main thing that this, especially, they're 90. I've been driving my whole life. I'm really good at this, except for the fact that your depth perception, you can't see as well. You can't hear as well. And it's not you. It's not your driving. It's the 18-year-old that just got on the road. It's that guy that's in a hurry from work on 400. So that's the stuff. It's your reaction and your timing.
The reflexes.
That's
absolutely.
the reflexes. That's the scary part. It's not everything else. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of them feel attacked. But
So I think that's a good solution.
yeah, that's awesome. I love that you have that. And I like that you continue to keep finding other resources for folks to
It may be
partner
interesting to bring them in as a pod for your podcast.
I know. Pick their brain about some things. I'm not mad at that. There's a lot of AI generated, a lot of things coming up in the home. I know that we have a friend of ours that owns another home care company, and they're utilizing something in the home for falls and like patterns of behavior. So going forward, I know you're a techie guy, you know all the things. So how do you feel like this is is it good? The partners?
So we are working with a new partner, but this will be dedicated as opposed to just a referral source who we vetted. We will be offering those services because it's data driven. And I think the nice thing about home care is that there'll always be a need for us because you cannot take the human element out of this environment.
Right.
However, getting data on a senior is extremely valuable. So even before we start care, we could offer this service to somebody who is thinking about it, and then that again, like the driving, could be proof that somebody needs assistance.
What is that?
How many times are they getting up a night? What is happening? Did they fall? Are they going to the fridge? Are they even eating? That is what the AI is able to do for you.
Wow.
And it just allows us to create a better care plan. So I know we are in pilot stage with that.
That's
now,
so
is
interesting.
That using cameras or
no cameras? Because that's a big issue for privacy. They don't like the idea of cameras. So they use other technologies in order to gather that data. And that was always I know some people do use cameras, but I think this is just taking this new technology to another level.
When my mother-in-law had early dementia, we started by putting cameras in her home so we could see, what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
She was having trouble articulating.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes they tell you everything's fine and that they're eating and they're not. So that's important to start with when you're trying to assess a situation.
Yeah. I mean, you probably know how many of your clients end up sometimes going to the doctor or going to the emergency room, and all it is dehydration.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dehydration and UTIs.
Well,
those are
dehydration
like
will cause a UTI a lot of
Mm-hmm.
most of the time. So the UTIs and dehydration.
Yeah.
big
And then in
issue.
technology, from my understanding, like we have an Augie system in our memory care. So it's similar, but it is a motion detection camera. So you can't see the person per se. It has like an overlay of a stick figure, but it's supposed to be able to, once it learns the person, it can tell you, hey, they probably have a UTI because their pattern of behavior is changing.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, I get geeked out about it. I'm not the best techie girl in the world, but I do love something that can advocate for people who can't advocate for themselves for the betterment of them and also preventing falls. I mean, there's all these things that it's great for.
That is very helpful for. Exactly.
Yeah. So I love that. So what are anything you want to talk about?
No, I think we're pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much for all of the information. I know I learned a lot today just on the whole veterans thing, and I thought I knew some. But
yeah. So I love Anthony, like I said in the beginning, because he has helped me out of so many jams. And it's one of those things where who can I call to problem solve this with me and like have a think tank? And so I'm so appreciative of a bigger brain. And then also, Anthony, where can we find you?
So you can just look us up online, and you can click on that and come through to us directly. It's www.amadalanier, Lanier, amadalanier.com. Or you can just Google us, and we're based in Beaufort. But as I said, if you maybe are just outside of our territory, there are a number of other folks who do exactly what I do, specializing in VA, specializing in long-term care insurance. And please remember that the work we do on long-term care insurance and VA is completely free. We don't charge for it. If I'm helping you with some of those things, I'm not going to charge you a cent for those activities.
Yeah, which I love. You can borrow a whole think tank for free. It's a big, big help, especially when you have questions about a policy. Like, I understand most of it, but not these three things. So it's a big help. And then where can we find you at, Vicki?
You can email me at resultsbyvicky@gmail.com. I am also an Anchor Real Estate agent, and so anchorrealestateadvisors.com is our website.
Yeah, I love that. And then I'm Rebecca. I work at Manor Lake in Dawsonville. So if you go to manorlakedw.com, you can find me there. And then we just really love being a resource for mature adults. We love helping them live better today and make it beautiful.